a 30-foot long, 100-ton passenger liner flying about 20 feet above the ground. I'll leave it entirely up to you as to think what you see. Again, you want to focus your eyes about halfway up on the right. Now, there's quite obviously an object appears there. You can see the nose of something. What's very important to notice is that whatever it is scooting about 15 feet above the ground. Now, according to the flight data recorder, the plane is never anywhere near 15 feet above the ground, and is certainly never near horizontal in the last segment of data either. Now, I leave it up to you, but quite patently something hit the building, obviously an aircraft of some sort. My question is simply, if it was Flight 77, A, why does the black box data not match up? B, why do every separate statement they give us on the black box data not even match up with the other one they've given us? And C, why do they refuse to make any comment about why that is? If the story is as we've been told, why will they not comment? Why does none of the data match up? Why do the eyewitnesses directly contradict the data we've been given? This is a photograph of the Pentagon just after it was hit. The dim yellow circle there is approximately the entry point of the aircraft. You can't see much, most of it's obscured in smoke. The interesting point of note is that if you superimpose the image of a 757 entering at that height, the engine passes precisely through these extremely sturdy cable reels here, which have had an 8-ton engine fly through them at 500 miles an hour without even rolling, which is quite impressive. This left here was a hole that was punctured 3 rings into the Pentagon, and I don't know the time the photograph was taken, but I suspect it's not long after, because you can see a piece of certainly aircraft wreckage of some sort lying on the ground there. The interesting point of note is you have a large round hole there. Now, I would assume if you have a large round hole, something large and round has tried to pass through it. Fairly basic sort of assumption. But the only piece of wreckage visible is a small piece of airframe. Here's a photograph down one of the middle of the rings. Again, you can't really see anything at all. I have friends in the States who've been through about 1,000 pictures of the inside of the Pentagon after it was hit. They have never seen an airline seat, a piece of luggage, a piece of clothing, a belt buckle. Now, there are pieces of plane wreckage there. Now, obviously, some sort of aircraft hit the building, patently. But, again, if it wasn't a passenger aircraft, it suddenly becomes a lot more realistic when you can't find any burnt-out airline seats, of which there would have been over 100. 100 airline seats. What do you do with 100 airline seats? Where have they gone? Now, maybe they were there, but someone who's managed to photograph 1,000 pictures of the inside of the building has managed not to take a picture of a single one of them. There are pictures of bodies inside the Pentagon, which have been put about as proof that the airliner hit the building. Well, there were over 100 military personnel killed in the building, and none of the bodies are in an airline seat, so it's patently impossible to say whether the bodies are from the passengers or from the unfortunate people from the United States Military Financial Auditing Service who were killed. These poor souls were almost certainly in the middle of investigating the missing $2.3 trillion from the budget of the United States Department of Defense. The day before 9/11, Donald Rumsfeld admitted, somewhat cagily, that the Pentagon is unable to account for approximately $2.3 trillion. $2.3 billion they're unable to account for. The next day, hijackers hijack an airliner and fly into the Army's Financial Auditing Services department in the Pentagon, which is very convenient. Bizarrely, if they'd flown it into the other side of the Pentagon, that would be where all the top brass were. As Donald Rumsfeld, United States Secretary of Defense, was sitting in his office comfortably in the Pentagon when the aircraft hit. If the hijackers had hit the other side of the building, they would have wiped out half of the top brass in America. Instead, they hit the only portion of the building which had just been renovated and which contained mostly only staff like financial auditors. I believe the highest person of military ranking killed in the Pentagon was captain. So from the point of view of the hijackers, it's an extraordinarily poorly planned attack on the building. One would have imagined, certainly if I was going to do something like this, I would have taken a guided tour of the Pentagon, which you certainly could do before 9/11, and I would have noticed with interest where the top military brass had their offices. What I would not do is spend several years planning a one-off operation involving training airline pilots and hijacking airliners, and then, at the last minute, thinking about where I was going to fly the plane into. Obviously, they hadn't thought about that at all. So, either they were staggeringly incompetent, or they knew exactly what they wanted to do. I'll leave that choice entirely up to you. Now, we have, of course, also phoned the NTSB, who've done all the flight investigation on this. It's under the jurisdiction of the FBI because it's a criminal case, and I'm going to play you 2 telephone calls we've made to the FBI and the NTSB to get some sensible answers out of them. Just saying, you've sent us this data, there are these problems, would you care to explain? And I'm going to show you what happens when you try and get some sense out of some of the questions I've put before you.
NTSB Public Affairs, Nicholas speaking.
Hi, Nicholas, I was wondering, I was calling because I had a question about some information you guys had released.
Okay.
Well, based on the information received from the flight data recorder for Flight 77 of the Pentagon, it has been determined by expert that the plane was too high to have hit the light poles. The plane was determined to be over 400
feet. Are you talking about the plane that hit the Pentagon?
Yeah.
Okay.
The plane was determined to be over 400 feet, conflicting with the official story. Experts have analyzed the flight data recorder information, and they know the difference between true altitude and pressure altitude. And they have determined that with the information they received from you guys, that the flight data recorder information conflicts with the official story. Just wondering if you were able to give me any information on to why this is, or point me in the right direction, maybe, please?
That's an accident that was handled by the FBI. You're going to have to call the FBI on that.
So this has nothing to do with the NTSB?
No, FBI.
Hi, I'm trying to get a hold of the supervisor of the Pent bomb team, please. Based on the information received from the flight data recorder of Flight 77 that hit the Pentagon, it was determined that the plane was too high to have hit the light poles, and this was determined by experts saying that the plane was determined to be at over 400 feet, conflicting with the official story, and that the experts have analyzed the flight data recorder and they know the difference between true altitude and pressure altitude, and I was wondering if I could get a comment on that.
What?
And are you guys aware of the fact that the flight data recorder information conflicts with the official story, setting the plane at about over 400 feet?
Once again, sir, not.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I am not in a position.
Are you the supervisor of the Pent bomb team?
I am not.
Can I speak to the supervisor of the Pent bomb team?
You should contact, in that case, contact the FBI headquarters.
I already did. They gave me this number, and then they transferred me over to you when I asked for the supervisor of the Pent bomb team. Hello?
Okay, sir. Can I have your name?
My name's Jeff.
Last name?
It's Hill.
Address?
Are you able to answer my question at all, or can you direct me to someone that can?
At this time, I cannot, sir.
Sorry, what was that?
At this time, I cannot.